The Seven Deadly Sins as Christmas Demons, a dark holiday tale. The snow fell in thick, heavy flakes, blanketing the small town of Hollow Pines in a deceptive calm. The streets were lined with twinkling lights, wreaths hung on every door, and the scent of pine and cinnamon wafted through the air. But something was wrong this Christmas, something dark. It began with the children. They whispered of shadows moving in the corners of their rooms, of laughter that wasn't jolly but cruel. Parents dismissed it as overactive imaginations, but soon, the whispers turned into screams. Gifts disappeared from under the trees, replaced by strange charred objects. The town priest, Father Merrick, was the first to notice the pattern. He gathered the townsfolk in the church, his voice trembling as he spoke. "7 demons walk among us this Christmas," he said. "They are the embodiment of the 7 deadly sins, and they have come to punish the wicked and corrupt the innocent. We must repent, or they will consume us all." The arrival of the demons. That night, the first demon revealed itself. Greed, a hulking, grotesque creature with golden eyes and hands that dripped molten gold, slithered into the home of the richest family in town. It devoured their treasures, gold, jewels, and even the Christmas tree adorned with expensive ornaments. But it wasn't satisfied. It turned its gaze to the family, whispering promises of endless wealth if they betrayed one another. By morning, the house was empty, save for the glittering gold statues of the family, frozen in their final moments of betrayal. Next came gluttony, a bloated, monstrous figure with a gaping maw that could swallow entire feasts. It appeared at the town's annual Christmas banquet, where tables overflowed with food. The demon consumed everything in sight, leaving behind only scraps and the stench of decay. Those who had indulged in the feast found themselves cursed, their hunger insatiable, their bodies withering as they ate and ate, never satisfied. Sloth crept in like a shadow, a pale skeletal figure draped in tattered robes. It whispered lullabies to the townsfolk, lulling them into a deep, dreamless sleep. Those who succumbed never woke, their bodies frozen in time, their homes filled with the eerie silence of eternal rest. Wrath came as a storm, a fiery, horned beast with eyes that burned like embers. It roamed the streets, feeding on anger and resentment. Arguments turned into violent brawls, and soon, the town square was littered with broken ornaments and shattered lives. Wrath laughed as it watched the chaos unfold, its fiery breath igniting the Christmas decorations into a blazing inferno. Envy slithered through the town like a serpent, its green, scaly body leaving a trail of frost. It whispered poisonous thoughts into the ears of the townsfolk, turning friends into enemies and neighbors into rivals. Gifts were stolen, decorations were vandalized, and the spirit of Christmas turned bitter and cold. Lust, a seductive, ethereal figure cloaked in shimmering red, preyed on the lonely and desperate. It whispered promises of love and desire, only to leave its victims hollow and broken, their hearts consumed by longing that could never be fulfilled. Finally, Pride, a towering, regal demon with a crown of thorns and a voice like thunder, stood in the center of the town, proclaiming itself the ruler of Christmas. It demanded worship, forcing the townsfolk to bow before it. Those who refused were turned to stone, their faces frozen in expressions of defiance. The fight for redemption. Father Merrick knew the town couldn't survive much longer. Armed with nothing but his faith and an ancient book of exorcisms, he ventured into the heart of the storm. The demons had gathered in the church, their laughter echoing through the empty pews. "You will not take this town," Father Merrick declared, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his heart. The demons turned to him, their eyes glowing with malice. Greed stepped forward, its molten hands reaching for the priest. But Father Merrick held up a crucifix, its light burning brighter than the demons' gold. One by one he confronted the demons, using their own sins against them. He reminded greed of the emptiness of wealth, gluttony of the pain of excess, and sloth of the value of action. He turned wrath's fire into warmth, envy's frost into compassion, lust's longing into love, and pride's arrogance into humility. The battle was fierce, and Father Merrick bore the scars of his struggle. But as dawn broke on Christmas morning, the demons were gone, banished back to the darkness from which they came. The aftermath, The town of Hollow Pines was forever changed. The scars of the demon's visit remained, but so did the lessons they had taught. The townsfolk learned to cherish what they had, to share their blessings, and to forgive one another. And every Christmas Eve, they gathered in the church to light a single candle, a reminder of the darkness they had faced and the light that had saved them. But in the shadows, a faint whisper lingered, a reminder that the 7 deadly sins were never truly gone. They were always watching, waiting for the next chance to return.